Hey guys, Otaku here, back with another ban list prediction video. So, the Megatins are out, which means that the the emanating ban list is just right around the corner. We really don't know when, but now that Konami has gotten their money from all the amazing reprints from Bestials and the Kashtira, now it's time for the ban list to come. So, we're going to start by going down here to the hope to see category. I'm going to eliminate this category, and my reason being is realistically a lot of this ban list or this prediction is stuff that I would like to see. I will try to make it as realistic as possible, of course, and I like to think I did do a good job at being somewhat realistic on the last prediction video. But there are some stuff that obviously won't be on the list that I will like to see. But we'll go over that when we get there, of course. So we're just going to split these up, and then I'll delete the category. Skill Drain, I want to see it 1. I think every Floodgate in general, just any card that basically says your opponent can't play the game, should either be a 1 or banned. Simple as that. Harp, I think, can come to 2. I said this in the last ban list. Con, realistically, I think 2 is good, but... and we'll state this a little bit later, I'm a little bit off the Con train, so I'm actually going to just completely take it off, if it'll let me. 1 second. Called By, I think, needs to come to 2 or come to 3. Reason being, yes, this is a very strong card, but there's a lot of hand traps running amok, Dimension Shifter being one of them, but if we are going to have so many hand traps just doing what they do, I think Called By needs to come to 2. And if Max C ever came back, hope to God it never does. But if it ever came back, then Called By needs to go to 3. But I think Called By can come to 2, and it'll be fine. OCG and Master Duel have been doing this for a while, and it hasn't been causing any massive problems. And Electromite, I said, could come to 1 in the last list. But, yeah, so I'm going to delete this category. Give me 1 second. All right, and there we go. So we're going to first just kind of go over all of these, and then we're going to start by adding some stuff that realistically I missed, or due to just certain decks succeeding or whatnot, just kind of make some other predictions. So Eradicator Epidemic Virus, this card needs to go. This card's just very toxic, and it can just literally, you set it, activate it on draw phase, and possibly win the duel. It's a very unfair card. You haven't been seeing it a whole lot lately, which is the reason that it might not get banned, is because we haven't seen it in a hot minute. But I truly think that once Labyrinth gets their support in Age of Overlord, this card is going to become a severe problem. Dimension Shifter, this one was a little biased. I hate Dimension Shifter. I think this card does actually need to be banned, but I don't think it's going to get banned. I think the most realistic scenario is it gets put to 2 like it's at in Master Duel and the OCG. I think 1 or banned is more needed, but I think 2 is the most realistic scenario here. But it's my ban list, so we're going to put it to 1. Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, this card needs to go. 100%, this card needs to go. I play Branded. I love Branded, but the problem with the fact that this is Branded's win condition is it's not a good thing. If Branded needs to rely on a card that says you cannot play the game, Branded is just not a good deck. And see that, but the funny thing is Branded is a good deck. It's getting toppings at YCSs and regionals still, like top 32. Even I think one of the regionals recently, it got into top 8, and Gimmick Puppet wasn't in the deck list. I think Branded players, myself included, because I do play Branded, need to stop relying on the Gimmick Puppet to win their games. Play the deck. Actually learn the deck. Do not play the unfair win condition. This card needs to go, because banning Expulsion wasn't the problem, unfortunately. Expulsion was just encouraging the problem, which the problem is Gimmick Puppet Nightmare and any card like it. For example, DD Orthos is also very similar. DDD Vice King Requiem, I think, also has the same effect, where both Requiem and Orthos is like when they're special summon, you can't summon anything other than Fiends. The problem is that if Gimmick Puppet goes, those two are going to be put in as substitutes. I just think, but at the end of the day, I think Gimmick Puppet is a lot worse. because with decks like Unchained in the meta right now, having the restriction of a Fiend isn't nearly as crippling. But Gimmick Puppet Nightmare just says you can't summon. You can't special summon. You can't play the game. This card needs to go. Fender to 1. Cashier is in like a really good spot right now. It's no longer like the best deck in the format. And it's no longer incredibly frustrating to play against. However, that being said, Fenrir is just is just very splashable in any deck. It's very much like Pot of Prosperity. If you can fit Fenrir, just put Fenrir in there, because he provides a presence and he's just a free summon on turn 1. So realistically, I think he needs to go to 1. I don't think he's going to get banned. There's a chance maybe he goes to 2. I'm very confident this card's going to get hit. Bestial, Lubellion, and Magnamut, these are just really broken cards. Lubellion isn't nearly as broken, but Magnamut definitely needs to go to 1. Prosperity, 1 or banned, honestly. This card just provides way too much consistency. A lot of people are like, oh, it gives consistency to the rogue decks. Yeah, but it gives consistency to the meta decks as well. It's kind of like Max C. It's just like anybody can run it. It just makes the good decks better. So at the end of the day, your rogue deck is still a rogue deck. This card just is way too good. The fact that you can pick and choose what cards in your extra deck go, and then also you can just excavate and choose which one you want. This card's just way too strong, especially on turn 1. The half damage on battle damage isn't nearly as a cost as many might think. Runic Tip, I think Tip needs to go to 2 or 1. I think a realistic scenario is 1. Just the card is very strong, can be used on either turn. Well, any Runic card can be used on either turn, but you can get advantage from this on any turn. Even on turn 1, just search a card out, hit the top card off their deck, and then it's just used to adapt, essentially. If you don't have the right Runic card in your hand for your opponent, you can use this to adapt and grab the one you need. Like I said, Skill Drain, Electromite need to go to 1. I think Electromite can come back. Pendulum players have been begging for it, And then Skill Drain, any Floodgate needs to go to 1. My friend Pearly, I think Pearly does need a hit. And I think I said in the last video that realistically, like, the Memories is like a bad hit. I play Pearly. I like Pearly. But I still think My Friend Pearly is a good hit. Put it to semi-limit. You're going to see a little less often. And it is a definite, it fixes bad hands for sure. And you can always kind of really guarantee what you're going to get. So this is a good hit. I just think there might actually be a better one, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. Big welcome. Labyrinth isn't nearly as prevalent as it was prior to Worlds. I do think that that's going to change again once Age of Overlord comes out, because that new support is crazy. I think Big Welcome to 2 is still very good because it is their best card in the deck. Being able to summon, bounce, and then the bounce triggers some of the other effects. And then also you can banish it from the graveyard, bounce something on your opponent's board. It's just it does a lot. And I think the 2 you're going to see a little less often. You're going to be a little bit wiser on how you use it. So yeah. Infinity Launcher, Harp, they can come to 2. They're not going to make a big difference in the world if they come off the ban list. And then I think Launcher's at 1, actually, but it can come to 2. Infernities are not making a comeback anytime soon. And then, yeah, Call By needs to come to 2 because of all just the hand traps. And, like, realistically, very few people are running the 1 because, I mean, like, we're in a heavy hand trap meta, so a lot of people are running the 1 and then, like, maybe cross out. But, I don't know. The idea of 1 versus 2, you're going to see it bare to none when you need it. But it is a lot more rewarding when you do see it. But I think this just needs to come to 2. And then I said the random category. So Konami basically just adds a card to the ban list lately, it seems, for shock factor. Lightning Storm was the biggest example of the last list because Lightning Storm by no means was like a problem. No one was like, oh man, we need to get Lightning Storm put on the ban list. But Nibiru to 2 was my prediction. There's a good chance it won't be there. There's a very high chance that won't be there, but it was just kind of my prediction for a random card that doesn't really need to be on the list, but Konami did it for the shock factor. So anyways, without a further ado, let's add some cards to this list. And we're going to start off with a hot take. Branded Expulsion can come back to 3, because at the end of the day, branded players are only running 1 if they run 1 at all. As I said with Gimmick Puppet's the problem. Branded has Expulsion still, and Expulsion is banned. It's called Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. Now, yes, he's a little bit more limited because he can't pull from the banished pile, which is what gave Gimmick Puppet its safety with the expulsion tactic. But as I mentioned, the Gimmick Puppet substitutes are not nearly as crippling because you can still have the option to play the game. I think Branded Expulsion definitely still provides that option to play Branded as it was meant to be played, which is, summon Albaz from the banished pile or whatever, and, be able to use stuff to go into fusion and whatnot, just keep recycling your Albazes. But instead it got abused by, Gimmick Puppet and also other board locks. Like I said, DDD Requiem and then DDD Orthos or just any other lock into the game is not nearly as crippling as the Gimmick Puppet that just says you can't special summon other than Gimmick Puppets. I think Expulsion, if Gimmick Puppet goes, Expulsion can come back. It's kind of like the Halka Fibrax treatment. So many cards were banned because of Halk, but when Halk finally got banned, those cards started coming back. And I think this is a scenario where Gimmick Puppet's the actual problem. Expulsion really wasn't. Again, hot take, but I think if Gimmick Puppet goes, the likelihood of people even running Expulsion is very slim to none. Because I think they'll just still run the Sanctifier Dragon. So, yeah. Ancient Fairy Dragon can come to 3. Ancient Fairy Dragon is very strong, even with its new errata. It's still played in stuff like, ABC and just a handful of other decks. It's just a very strong card. And you can play it very well with, like, the Therion package. But it's not doing anything game-breaking. It's not making a change on the meta by any means. And at the end of the day, no one's really running more than one of this if given the option. So I think it can just come back to 3. Take it off the list. Thin the list a little bit because I think it's at 1 right now. And again, it's not gonna do anything that's so game breaking that they have to keep it at 1. Because at the end of the day, I think it's just going to stay at people are just gonna play 1. So yeah, again, another hot take, but I think you guys could probably see where I'm coming from here. The errata is amazing. The errata still makes it an amazing card, but it's very niche and very specific for certain decks, especially with Revolution Synchron. You're not going to play this all the time. You're not going to, and the top decks in the format right now aren't playing this at all. So yeah. Once again, another hot take here. Branded Fusion, put it to 1. Let's round up to the OCG and Master Duel where Branded Fusion's at 1. Realistically, I'm a branded player. I haven't played it in a hot minute though. I really kind of want to see what branded players do if they ban Branded Fusion. But I don't think they're gonna do that. The reason I want to see it go to 0, go to banned, is because, even in the OCG and in Master Duel, the decks basically still look the same, even with only 1 Branded Fusion, because they still have 1,000 ways to get to it. And if it gets ashed, that's a problem, but, you can use Retribution to get it back out of the grave, so you can maybe recycle it, or you can do Fusion, that trap card that you can search with Thrust or whatever, Fusion, Duplication, to use it in the graveyard. But I want to see, again, what would happen. Like, I want to see what the decks would look like if it got banned. Like, how the deck might die for a little bit, but I'm sure someone will find a way to still break the deck, and they might explore some ways to be like, oh my god, Branded Fusion was actually a cripple. We were relying on this too much. It was too much of a crutch, I just want to see the experimentation. I want to see people cook. But Branded Fusion to 1 or honestly 2, I think there's a good chance we see Branded Fusion on this list. And the reason being is because Branded Chimera. It's a very strong deck. It's very, very strong. It is popping up everywhere. It's exceeding expectations that people originally had for it. The deck is just incredibly powerful. And I think that we don't want to have another Super Heavy Samurai / Pearly ban list where we just neutered the new decks before they had a chance to shine. So I think don't hit anything in the Chimera list, but, hit the branded package a little bit. Make the Chimera players really think, hey, maybe, you know, we run something else other than branded. Because, you know, the deck has potential to do other things, and we're just relying on already existing things that we are just used to. So yeah, branded fusion to 1, I personally think is something that should happen. And you know, a lot of my fellow branded players will probably call me a traitor for saying that, but I think it's a very reasonable thing. Because the OCG's been making it work for a while. Master Duel just did it, even though Master Duel realistically branded is neutered in Master Duel. I don't know why they had to do that, but that's up to them. Bestial Druis Worm. Yes, I think I don't think all 3 of these Bestials are going to meet the list at the same time. Out of the 3 of these, I think Lubellion probably won't be on the list. But Druis Worm is also just really powerful. The only thing about Druis Worm is it's not nearly as powerful against Unchained, because they can just go Axis Code Talker, and then you can't activate Druis Worm in response to Axis Code Talker's effects. It's just Magnamut and Druis are just a really very strong couple of cards, and I think putting them to 1, and just the Bestials in general are strong because they, you know, they can banish stuff in your opponent's grave or your grave, summon them on your turn, and do stuff on your opponent's turn. It's just very, very strong, and I think realistically these are the 2 most likely to hit the list. Mag is the most likely, and honestly the most obvious. If we don't see Mag, I'll be shocked. The reason I think these are definitely going to be on the list is because the tins. The reason this list is coming out, and we all know this list was coming out after the tins and not before, is because Konami wanted to make their money off of the Bestials and, you know, the Cashier and all that before they started hitting shit. And these 2 were the biggest culprits. Both of them got Prismatic Secret Rares, both very powerful cards. And no shit, they're going to hit the list. So, yeah, moving on. So on to the next card, and we are doing a ban. We've been doing a lot of limits, but we're doing a ban, and that is DDD High Wave King Caesar. So Unchained, easily the best deck in the format right now. It is, once again, just like Chimera, exceeding everyone's expectations. We all knew this was going to be good, but Pack just recently topped, I think, for like the 2nd or 3rd time, and just topped a regional with this, or not a regional, a YCS with this. This deck is just insane. However, like I just mentioned with Chimera, I don't think we want to neuter the new decks before they truly get a chance to shine. So I think don't do anything directly to Unchained. Do stuff that they run, so maybe they'll find some other engines, some other stuff to experiment with. The DDD engine is very large, actually, in the deck. They run Dark Contract, they run Vice King Requiem, they run High Wave King Caesar, they run Machinics, they run just a lot of good stuff. And I think banning High Wave King Caesar is a good way to slow the deck down, but don't kill it. This card's also just in general very powerful. I believe it's a rank 6, and it is a not once per turn negate to cards that would special summon a monster. So you can do this twice in a turn. It's very easy for them to summon out. They just summon out their 2 level 6 dogs. I don't remember the names of them. And then they exceed into this, and like it's just a very strong presence. There is ways around it, of course, with like Book of Moon and whatnot. But realistically, it's just a really hard card to get around because it is not once per turn. This does by no means neuter the deck, but it does slow them down because it gives them 1 less board presence. Technically 2 less board presences. So yeah, I think this card is very likely to get banned. I don't think putting it to 1 is going to really do anything. But I also just I don't think it's necessary to hit Unchained before it truly gets the chance to shine. Like, it's been shining since, you know, Dune, but it does. We had Tyr and Kashtira shine for like a year. Let's let some of the other newer decks do some stuff before we just bitch slap them. Because, you know, Super Heavy Samurai didn't get the chance to do that. Pearly's getting the chance to do it again, but let's just see what happens after this ban list. Another ban is Calamity. So, here's the thing. I don't think Calamity is the problem. I think Calamity is just encouraging the problem. It is a result of the problem. Calamity is a very strong card, and it literally just says you cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! If summoned this turn. And Synchro decks like Manadium and Synchron have ways to summon this on your opponent's turn. And that is through the route of Crimson Dragon. The issue here is that Crimson Dragon just came out, and it is also the promo card to Dune. They're not gonna hit it. They're not gonna ban it. It just came out. So Calamity is the next option. Like I said, this card just shuts off Yu-Gi-Oh! The reason I don't think this card's the problem is because the likelihood of this actually getting summoned any other way on your opponent's turn is just super unlikely. Crimson Dragon's just an immediate shortcut to it, and it's again, Crimson Dragon's the problem, not Calamity. So I think Calamity needs to get banned because, again, this is just this is another scenario like the Gimmick Puppet where it's just very toxic. It's just not a fair thing to go up against. Now, granted, you have a million different ways to stop this from ever hitting the board. You could, imperm the Crimson Dragon or whatnot. You can do stuff to stop that Crimson Dragon from even hitting the board or doing its effect, but you don't always have that. And so I think realistically you shouldn't be punished for that 100% of the time by getting hit with the you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh card. So yeah, that's really it. That's all there is to say about Calamity. I think he just needs to go because the real problem can't or won't. And then we're gonna do Jasmine as well. Jasmine I think could probably go to 1. Jasmine is part of, the Rika Sun Avalon deck, and I took Concon off because realistically Concon's not the problem. It's the other cards that can really just make the deck go crazy, and I think Jasmine just being the deck's one of the deck's main extenders is just very strong, and realistically I think putting it to 1 just kind of slows the deck down, doesn't kill it because it is by no means one of the best decks in the game. It is a very strong, maybe tier 2, possibly borderline tier 1 deck, but we don't need to kill the deck. We just need to kind of slow it down a little bit because it is frustrating to go against. Once again, more limits is D-Barrier. Like I've said before, I think any Floodgate kind of needs to get banned or limited. D-Barrier just kind of, again, shuts the game off for certain decks, and the fact that it is always being sideboarded, so that way you're always ready against most decks. The only deck this doesn't affect is Link decks, so, Unchained or Code Talkers, or Math Mech. It's just not a fun card to get hit with. So, again, it's just a Floodgate. That's all. Dragon Rulers, Redox and Tidal can both come back. I think a lot of people, Konami included, are scared that Dragon Rulers are just going to run amok if they come back. And as we saw with Tempest and Blaster, that's just not the case. No one's really running them. And yes, that's because they're at 1, but also because Redox is realistically the best one. I don't see these cards doing crazy things if they come back to 1. Now, once they're at 1, we can start experimenting with maybe putting some of them at 2 and realizing, again, they're not going to do anything. But, yeah, I just don't think the Dragon Rulers are ruling anything anytime soon by any means. So I did say that Kashtira is in a good spot. It is by no means going crazy. It is still very strong presence in the meta. It is a tier 1 deck. It is still very consistent. That being said, there's a lot of stuff on this list already that's currently hitting it. If we do Fender to 1, Unicorn's already at 2, and Arise Heart's at 1. If we also do Pot of Prosperity to 1, that's killing a little bit more of the consistency. I do think that Birth is a big problem in the deck. If we don't see Fenrir, we need to see Birth, because Birth just does a lot. Birth not only allows you to summon the Kashtiras from the banished or graveyard, but it also allows you to normal summon them without tribute. And I believe it also has an effect where you can banish stuff from your opponent's graveyard. I don't remember. This card just does a lot. This card makes it very, very hard to get rid of the Kashtira monsters. It makes it very hard to truly get them off the board. So I think this card, if we don't see Fenrir, we need to see Birth. The issue is if we see Fenrir, Prosperity, and Birth, and Dimension Shifter, Kashtira just becomes an unplayable deck, or just very unfun to personally play, because you're just it's an uphill battle. The issue is I think Fenrir is the most needed hit, because again, he can be played in every deck, but Birth is like a direct hit to Kashtira as a whole. Realistically, I think a Rise card could maybe come to 2, put Birth to 1, and put like Fenrir to 1 or something like that. But I don't know. It's a little touch and go, to say the least. I also realized our ban list is going a little under screen. There we go. Runic Fountain, put it to 1. I think Fountain and Tip actually need to go to 1. The Runic deck is just very strong. It's really just kind of outlived its presence. Deck's been out since Tactical Masters. It just recently got support in Dune. Sleipnir is actually a good card. It's very situational though. But I think like Fountain to 1 is going to slow the deck down. It's going to be a little bit more risky to play. It's not going to be a crutch for 1,000 different decks. You're not going to be looking at a deck and go, oh, I could put Runic in that. So you're going to be a little bit more privy to how you're doing it, but also in decks that have other field spells, like say Plunder, you're gonna maybe rely on those archetypal field spells over Fountain sometimes. Same with like Generator. I know some people are playing Runic Generator and like Master Duel and stuff. You're gonna granted, I think Generator deck also uses their field spell actually over Fountain. But the point is that Runic just kind of exists, and then the other decks are supporting it in most scenarios. And I also think Runic just kind of provides backup to decks that sometimes don't need it, but also do need it. But like realistically, maybe that deck wasn't good to begin with. But yeah, I think again, I play Runic. I play Runic in Runic Chimera, and it's very strong, but I think in the Runic Chimera deck, Runic does a lot of the heavy lifting when you don't draw good hands. So yeah, we can bring Orange Light back to 3. Tier limits, at least until Age of Overlord, are not coming back anytime soon. I say anytime soon, but we have like I think 2 months until Age of Overlord, if that. No, it's at the end of October. But I just think Orange Light can come back to 3. It is at 2. It went to 1 originally. It came to 2. We're realizing that this card, unless it's in specific decks, is not the problem. It is just an extra hand trap. But right now, what decks can run this? So Tier can still run this. Madolche could run this. Madolche Vernisylph. Just not many decks are running this right now. And when we get Age of Overlord, get the Horus cards, Tier will come back, and I still don't think they're going to run this because just very few fairies are going to be left in the deck. But yeah, I think Orange Light can certainly come to 3, and it's not going to kill anything by any means. Last card is just another Floodgate. Anti-Spell Fragrance. This card kills a lot of decks right now. This card kills Kashtira because, Kashtira plays a lot of spells. It kills Pearly because Pearly is only spells. And it kills Branded and Chimera because they run spells. It's a floodgate. No one likes floodgates. Get rid of it. And for some reason, I forgot to put it on the list of options, but the last card actually, and we're going to slap it right here, Pearly Sleepy Memory. I think this card is just way too strong. Not only does it help you summon out the new Noir card, but which also helps you search the trap, but also if you get 3 as material by your opponent's standby phase, and you have the ideal, like if you have the ideal board, you're sitting on an E-Pearly Noir in defense mode with 3 Sleepy Memories attached to it and a trap card set. So in your standby phase, in your opponent's standby phase, you draw 3 cards off of E-Pearly Noir, activate the trap, target E-Pearly, go into X-Pearly Noir, and then activate X Pearly Noir's effects to draw 3 more cards. So you draw 6 on your opponent's standby phase. I think Pearly Sleeping Memory needs to go to 1. OCG did it. Meanwhile, they have 3 Delicious Memory. So they play a little bit differently, but I think Sleeping Memory could go to 1 for sure, 100%. That being said, again, Pearly is just recently getting its shine after Dune, and I think we could also just wait a list, let Pearly truly shine again, because they didn't get the chance to do that before they got hit with Delicious Memory hit. But again, we'll see. This is all retrospective. This is all stuff that not only I would like to see, but again, I tried to keep this as realistic as possible. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. We are almost at 1,500 subscribers. That would be a really cool milestone to hit. But with that, I will see you all in the next video. See ya.